What happens when a leader who spent 30 years in the trades, building, leading, and grinding, suddenly hits a wall?
6 months in, I was 35 minutes from taking my life in my truck. My daughter asked me to stay home that day, and it was what I needed, the light.
In today's episode, Justin Azbill shares the lessons he learned about burnout, leadership, and the mission that pulled him back. Mission mindset.
Make a commitment to yourself. That's what I call mindset maintenance. You all earn at least 1 hour a day of mental currency, mindset currency. Cherish that 1 hour and spend it maintaining yourself.
Because toughness isn't about hiding pain. It's about facing it together. This is the WorkReady Podcast. If you're out there putting in long shifts, carrying heavy loads, and still trying to save energy for home, this podcast is for you. We share the same kind of field-tested tools we use with the pros, but made for workforce athletes like you. If that's the journey you're on, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next step forward. Hello, this is the WorkReady Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kevin Rindall. I'm so excited to be joined by Justin Azbill today. Justin has spent over 30 years in the trades, in construction, and various different realms, and just has a tremendous amount of experience. And more recently, he's really become a powerful voice, especially in the space of mental health and just empowering leaders to live fulfilled lives. Justin, kick things off. When you think back over 30 years in the trades, what were some of the biggest physical and mental challenges you saw frontline workers experiencing each day?
That's a great question, Kevin, man. So I think the biggest challenge is when first and foremost, we always start really early, or we work night shift. It never stops, right? So I think one of the biggest challenges is, for one, getting there on time, but two, it's the constant change. Like, you have a plan in your mind of what you want to do in the day, but construction and it doesn't matter what industry, whether it's utility, whether it's plumbing, pipe fitting, just in general building, there's constant change, and you have to constantly adapt daily to new risk, new challenges. It could be people challenges, it could be mindset challenges, but a lot of times it has to do with organizations that have teams that have to work together. And in the trades, we don't always see eye to eye, so I think adapting to the different things was probably some of the biggest challenges. From a risk perspective, when I first started, buildings took 5 years to build. They're down to 19 months sometimes, you know what I mean? So I think the challenge now is is our industry keeping up the human side with the technology and the innovation side, right? So I think that would be the best way to answer that question.
Yeah, and right now we have multiple generations in the construction industry all working together. Like, how have you seen mindset in the trades change during that 30-year time frame?
Wow. So when I first started, suck it up, buttercup kind of mindset. Most of our leaders, like my first foreman, I think he just turned 50 years old and received that title, foreman. He'd been a good leader already. But however, like now the average age of a leader in the field is 25 to 30 years old. So, I mean, that's been cut in half, right? So you see the baby boomers, people I came up, they were my foreman, the leaders, they were, being taught by people who had returned from World War II, and they mindset was weakness isn't allowed. I mean, that was like the motto in my house, like growing up, was we don't raise weak men, right? It actually set me up for success, but also set me up for failure too. Because, that mindset, no one's going to reach out to get help. You're too prideful, your ego, stuff like that. But then you're starting to see the different generations come into the leadership roles, like millennials. They have no problem telling you how it is. They have no problem saying, yeah, hey, I'm not good with that because I watched my parents suffer my whole life, that kind of deal. And then the next generation after that's even more intense of making sure that, work-life balance, it means a lot more to them. Again, they've seen people suffer through the industry, mindset-wise, but the other side is the positive to that is they've seen people like how they become successful and constant working. Drinking from seven fire hoses used to be the way that I thought was the right way, but what I'm learning is we work smarter, not harder, right? So the new generations are saying, hey, I can do this new part of my role, but I also have these other seven things. What's a priority to you? Because I can't do them all. So I think you're seeing people be more honest about it in the industry, but it's at risk because still you got the old guys like me running stuff. So like, you get those guys saying, hey, that person said they can't do something, so I'm setting them on the bench. So it's risky, but at the same time, it's hit or miss. I think the industry is a mixed bag right now, and that could be good for some people, but that's one of the reasons I got into what I'm doing now is like, I see the issues with how I came up, and I'm passing on those lessons learned in a productive layman's mindset way to help build the next generation. Not my way or what I think is all right or perfect, but like, so we're supposed to is hand down what we've learned to better the next generations, and hopefully the industry catches up with all the innovations that helped us get faster from the human side of it. So
You've been really outspoken just about the mental health crisis that's going on in the trades right now and have just become a huge advocate and voice in that space. How do you feel like, and you said, the suck it up, buttercup mentality, but like, how has that tough guy, toughness mentality shaped the way we talk or don't talk about mental health?
Till 2020, I was the person. I mean, there's several different parts of that. So first and foremost, before 2020, I was the person saying, "Hey, I don't know why everybody's talking about this. I don't see it, right?" And after 2020, we started getting real live data on loss of life due to substance use disorder, and then also suicide, death by suicide, and uh, I took a phone call in 2020. I got called up. I thought I was going to be laid off, but I was getting called up to take up an additional role. So I had never suffered from mental health issues, depression, or any of that stuff. Barely ever drink, so alcohol is not an issue for me. I've never done any drugs ever to this day, and I'm 54 today, right? So like, I'm the guy that was sitting on the outside saying, just don't even worry about that stuff. We got to focus on injury and illnesses, right? Well, we lose over 5,000 people in the industry, 5,095 in 23, to death by suicide, and over 15,000 to substance use disorder, right? So we lose around 1,000 due to this.
Can I stop you real quick?
Yeah.
Put that in perspective with the number of on-the-job deaths that happen.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Yeah.
I mean, 1,000 annually by, in the construction industry. So that's 5 to 1 death by suicide. And then, because I'm a big data guy, right? So, and then when I first started seeing this, it's 2021 or 2022, it was 17,000 deaths by substance use disorder. That means opiate crisis, alcoholism, the whole mixed bag, right? So like, people are suffering, and when I started seeing it, data doesn't lie, right? So like, that's how most executives, that's how most leadership, they use data to, okay, this is how I'm going to make my decision based on this data, because it's a safety net, right? Like, helps with comfort. When I started looking at that, I was like, holy cow, man. I had suffered 6 months, only 6 months. I went from getting the phone call to my hours going from 10 hours to 19 hours a day, completely surrounded by pressure, stress, negative conversations. I was getting threatened. And it was because I took an operational roles in COVID, and people weren't comfortable. So every call I received was bad, pretty much. So when you get surrounded by that, I started suffering from sleep deprivation, not sleeping. And then I'm real big about how I get treated. Like it fuels my emotions. So like if you're dealing with threats and, conflict all day long and you can't control it because like at that level of leadership, you can't threaten them back. You got to take the high road, right? There's code of conduct when you're at that level, right? So I think that I'm just like any person that gets a phone call. Hey, we want you to take this promotion and do this other job. You're not going to say no, especially because I've been brought up. You don't turn down opportunity. So, everybody's like that in the trades. We're honorable. We're pride people. We're honorable. We don't turn down work. Our thought process is we've been generationally taught that the higher you move up the ladder, the more successful you are, which it's not easier up the higher you get, right? It just adds more processes. And then, so 6 months in, I was 35 minutes from taking my life in my truck. My daughter asked me to stay home that day. And I at the time, I'm a dad. That's my whole life. And another part that was messing with my mind was, in my mind, I had felt like I had disowned my wife and daughter. I put them on the back burner so much that I didn't deserve a relationship with them even. And it was all, it's what happens when you're depressed, sleep deprived, your brain starts playing tricks on you. And um, I was like, I can never go back. I'm never going to get that back. So like all of this stuff was on my mind. Like I'm going to lose my house if I get fired. Um, so who suffers more, right? That kind of stuff was going through my mind. And, that day I asked, I stayed home, and, she called me by the first word she ever said was Papa. It's like, Papa, stay home. I love you. And I was like the medicine I needed at the time. But, I said, okay. So I secured my bag because I had a lethal means of ending my life in that bag. I take it everywhere with me. Actually, it's right over here. It's a snack bag, right? And I went into her room and I was watching her. She was just so thrilled that I was in the room with her. And I love you, Papa. I kept looking over her. She's like glowing. It was so amazing. In or out, I fell asleep in her beanbag. I mean, first time in 6 months, it slept, right? So later on that day, I woke up. She's just getting done with lunch. She's laughing. Hey, Papa, you fell asleep. I mean, nowadays she would have been recording me with her phone, like to blackmail me, right? But anyway, it, it, it was what I needed, the light, just to get me to kind of start processing different. I slept a little bit, and then I asked my 8-year-old daughter, hey, can I get on this call? And she gave me this most awful look, man. It was so the greatest. Kevin, she looked at me like, "Are you serious, man?" Like, you know what I mean? So I said, "It's with Uncle Josh." She's like, "Oh, it's with Uncle Josh." Okay, yeah, it's okay. I'll be right back in less than an hour. So on this call, there was like 50 of us. It was when Zoom just started. So if you remember that.
Yeah.
And on the bottom screen, I could see one of a friend. I call him Dad still to this day. He's an amazing person, and he was upset emotionally, and he'd just lost his best friend, and he vocally was vulnerable on this call. We were all vulnerable on this call about how we felt. I was giving everybody advice on these calls all the time that I should be giving myself because I was suffering so bad. But anyways, it's like devastating. He goes, I don't know how I'm going to go on. I lost my best friend. And it was just kind of what we call my clarity moment. See, because I had been masking how I was inside to everybody, including my wife, everybody. I was so bad at that time for like a month and a half, almost 2 months. All that was on my mind is how I could like end it in my life. I mean, that was, if I wasn't working, I was thinking about suicidal thoughts, So like that's part of serious depression. That's part of when that's all you're, consumed by. That's the direction you go, right? So after that call, man, I got off and I immediately called Josh back and it's like, bro, I need help, man. I need to talk to someone. And his immediate response was, I know you do. He had gone through the same thing, and he's like, I can see the suffering in your face in the call. And he goes, I love you, man. I care about you. Let's talk. So, I mean, that's all it took was me asking for help. And it was such an easy process for me, but after I saw the statistics, it really was like something ringing my bell, like, hey man, you need to start focusing on this other stuff, because a lot of people are suffering. Those numbers tell me. So I started digging into the data, and at that time, I had no idea where it was in the industry. And I mean, there's a lot of good raw data out there right now, like the 5,000 plus, the 15,000 plus deaths by suicide, and then substance use disorder. There's also a statistic out there that 125 people are impacted by one loss by suicide. So that means 125 individuals, human beings, are impacted by that person's death by suicide, right? So like, I'm looking at all this, I'm like, okay, I don't wear a Superman cape or anything like that. I'm just one human being, but I'm going to transition from safety because those numbers, 1,000, haven't changed in forever. This is the bigger number of human beings suffering and losing life, what can I do? So started transitioning into that space into 2022 more, because that's when I was finally good in my recovery. I use shadow work. So for your listeners that might be silently suffering, or they might be someone that just wants to learn more about themselves and whatnot, look up the word shadow work. There's great stuff online about it. It's been around since the 10th century. Samurais have been using it since back then. I mean, that's how they made it honorable to deal with the stuff they did. I mean, you think about their life, that was crazy. But started using shadow work. And so in 22, I really started getting involved in this space to learn more about it. Like what was out there, what was everybody thinking. And the thing that made me really touch my heart more was the stigma side of it, which was everybody assumed it was people suffering from addiction. Everybody assumed it was people who brought these problems on themselves. So then I got asked to, my friend Josh asked me, it's like, hey, you should share some of the stuff about what you went through, because it's not relevant to what people think this mind space is, right? So when I started doing that, people started listening, like, holy cow. So the first time I vocally shared my experience was in 2023 for the Association of Union Contractors at their leadership summit in Savannah, Georgia. Now they had the term go big, or go hard or go big, whatever it is, right? And you can't get any bigger than this crowd. This is the most prominent union presidents and leaders of the entire United States in this room. There was over 200 of them. I had Eric Dean, president of the Ironworkers. I had the president of Ford. I had the president of Chevy. I had the president of data centers in this room. We had the president of the UA, the vice president of the UA. We had the president of the MCAA, NICA. I mean, everybody was in this room. Nobody had any idea what I was going to do. And I shared my experience with them. And I challenged everybody at the end, like, we need to start modeling change. How do you do that? First and foremost, we have to be vulnerable and share that we're human beings. We all have to maintain ourselves using mindset maintenance, or we use the word self-care. Some people do. I use the words mindset maintenance because the trade professionals that I speak with, they don't like the word self-care. It sounds clinical, right? So I just shared with them, like, the importance of having what I call mindset clubs, peer groups. You have to talk to other human beings. In my research, I found after the age of 30, people stop talking to other human beings because they get married, they start having more responsibility, they start having children, they start taking promotions. Everyone uses this all the time to communicate, like they screen time, so I challenge this group to this. So with no idea of the impact I was going to make, I had no idea. Right afterwards, Eric Dean comes up to me. He's a very powerful guy. He's retired at the end of this year, but he came up to me and goes, you just completely blew my mind, Justin. He goes, I never looked at this problem like that. You were just a normal human being. You took on everything that they threw at you. You were sacrificing for the company you work for, your family, everything. And I never thought of it this way. And I was like, that's why I shared, because we got to understand the stigma side. And then vice president of the UA, his name's Mike. He came up to me and he goes, I just want you to know, like, it's like you just sucker punched me in the eye. And I was like, whoa, I didn't mean that. And he goes, no, listen. He goes, I needed that. He goes, I didn't look at this problem like this. He goes, you're an everyday normal human being, just like all of the UA. Like, all humans could go down this path easily by just taking a phone call. And he goes, we got to do something different. So I had no idea that that was going to have that impact. I knew my audience, but I wanted them to see like it different, right? And ever since then, my phone's been ringing off the hook. And at the end of last year, I left Milwaukee Tool. I told my boss in August of last year, say, hey, I need to refocus my attention on this. It's growing. It's something that we need. I knew at the mid-year this year, I'd be done with my PhD. So I was like, I need to start building programs for this. And at first he was mad at me because he's a good friend. He didn't want to lose me. I was doing great for him. But then like a week and a half later, he called me because I want to talk. Let's talk. And I thought he was going to try to convince me to stay. I was gung ho. I was like, I'm not changing my mind. Once I make my decision, I'm good. Right. But instead he's like, I'm here for you, brother. I support, you're bigger than this. Like, this is a big deal and I support you. So, ever since, man, mission mindset's been on fire in a way. I just recently in the last 3 months started pen to paper, putting actual structured format programs together, because that's what people want to see. They want to see like a structured program that they can stick in their policy book. Then also when I go there, it's not just talking points. I can leave with an impression, and then they can carry that on forward and integrate that into their culture, right? So it's been great. Not in a million years, if you would have said 30 years ago, like, hey, you're going to have your PhD in 2025, and you're going to own your own company, and you're going to be passing all your leadership stuff on to other human beings in the industry, hoping for a better. I would have been laughing at you, right? Like, just not this knucklehead, but here we are, buddy.
As a safety leader, you have more risks to cover than hours in the day. That's where Vimosity comes in. We give you one platform to scale your impact, delivering expert curated safety campaigns on everything from slips, trips, and falls to heat stress and soft tissue injury prevention. You'll reach every crew through the channels they already use, while gaining data insights to guide smarter prevention. With Vimosity, you can boost awareness, prevent serious incidents, and keep your workforce ready for the job. Scan the QR code or visit Vimosity.com to learn how leading utilities are cutting injuries by 50%. Man, thank you so much for sharing that story. And a signature part of who you are, Justin, is just your willingness to put it all out there. And I think that is so empowering for people who might be in a similar spot. And it challenges them to confront some of the things that they might be dealing with on their own. And as you're going through this, I kind of feel like there are two camps out there. There are either someone who maybe resonates with your story and where you were at that exact moment when your daughter came in, and it's just like everything in the world is piling up on them, and it's like, how do I get out from underneath that? But then there also might be other people in another camp like Josh who are in a good spot and can be that listening ear. And I mean, I feel like those we may have listeners who may be in either camp. So what would you say to those people? Number one, the people who might be where you were at your lowest point, and then the other person who may be in a good spot, and what can they do to recognize others in need and be that person to support them and help them walk through that dark time?
So there's two things there, two camps, right? So I like to look at things systematically. I think it's important to communicate with people on, meet them where they're at. Like we talk about workforce readiness a lot, right? And I think it's important to identify like systematically before we even start talking about the people suffering like I did. Like, I think it's important to recognize there's some things in the construction industry already set up against us, right? So there's 400,000 open jobs. 18% of our workforce is retiring next year, which is leadership. 10,000 baby boomers are eligible for retirement every single day right now, right? So we're asking people, we're going to be asking people to step up in roles they're probably not prepared for. The other side of that means that it on a daily basis, when you're on the job, when someone's acting aggressive as a leader, using fear-based leadership, 90% of the time they're hiding a skill gap, right? So everything in both camps comes down to one important thing to recognize: communication. It's so important. It's so easy to hit the trigger button and be up in someone's face, telling them, hey, you don't talk to me that way or whatever. But, being a human is the best thing we can all do. And the most important part to me was that I've learned through my journey is seek to understand people better. So with me, instead of letting all of the negative conversations that I was taking and the threats and stuff like that, I took it very personal. I let it, I stuffed it inside of me, as much as possible. We compress all of the stuff that happens to us, right? So I think it's important to deal with each challenge as they come. Now, it's not always that easy. I get it, but at least have the conversation like, hey, brother, I appreciate your phone call. I get it. You're not comfortable with this, but why do you feel like it's okay to talk to me like this? Like, trying to understand you better. Why do you feel this way? Is there something that we can really look at and approach in a proactive way to deal with this versus you calling and threatening me? Because just so you know, I just took 6 calls like this. And have you thought about the human side of me? Like, I know you're working for us as a general contractor. However, I'm a man. I'm a human being. I have kids at home, like a wife. Like, making it personal, I think that's one side of it. And then like the Josh side, like we were talking about, for those that are comfortable enough, I think we need to learn to empower people to have more open conversations and give them opportunity to have conversations. One of the things I can tell everybody, I've been in this industry since I was 22 years old. And even before that, I was working in the industry since I was 12. I grew up working with my hands, right? We size people up quickly in the industry as boots on the ground people. We all know when someone's off. We all know when someone's suffering. We all know when they're not being themselves. They're being, irritated. They're taking more risks. They're talking about having the life insurance all set up. Talking about, hey, this is going to be great when I'm not around, kind of conversation. So like, let's empower people to say, hey, bro, you're not your normal self. Let's go have a conversation. Hey, you're not comfortable talking to me? I get it, man. No one likes to have conversations about who they are and what they're going through. Let's call the EAP together. Like, or hey, and I'm not a big 988 fan, but last resort, right? Call together. But the most important part is having the conversation before it gets to crisis mode. So personally, like the people that are doing great, build relationships with those that you think might be suffering. Start having conversations with them. Meet with them before. Hey, can we meet before work 30 minutes? Let's have coffee together. And then just say, hey, how you doing, man? I've noticed you've been agitated lately. What's going on? Like, and then you're going to find, like, if you open the door for that person to have a conversation with you, they're going to find out that you're just like them. You just handle the different challenges differently because you've been through that journey more. You know what I mean? I think it's a type of mentoring that we need to get back to. That's how it was when I first started in the industry, but we're so competitive now. And then honestly, people are working so far beyond capacity, Kevin. I mean, we take so much on, and then the father stuff, the mother stuff, heck, dude, like when I was driving to Boston every day, I left at 2:45 in the morning to get there, get a good workout in before I started, and just to get a good parking spot and to beat traffic so I didn't get stuck an extra hour in the morning. On the way home, same. Like you try to leave early, but if you're there after 1:45, 2 o'clock, you're going to have an extra hour onto your drive time. So like, again, capacity plays its role in everyone's life. And I just think it's important to early on start having conversations as human beings about life challenges so that everything just doesn't build up on you.
What are some of the lessons that you learned in terms of managing capacity? Because, I think especially people in construction, they tend to be servant type people who they just want to work, they want to help other people, but sometimes you have to help yourself first so that you can actually have that capacity.
This was one of my hardest to learn about is capacity. I tell people all the time, like, I have a problem and I don't know how to say no. I am servant minded. I like to help anybody that calls me. If someone was to call me and say, "Hey, can you help me out with this?" I would try to help. And that's just how everything I've always done has been about other people, helping people. Right. So, the first thing and foremost, I always try to teach everybody is how much time in 24-hour day are you working? And that includes driving to work, emailing when you get home, opening your computer, all in everything. Write down on a piece of paper, track how much you working, right? So I think it surprises specifically people in the construction industry. And when you look at it that way, like how many hours a day that they are actually working. So that's the first foremost, like is recognizing how much they're working. And then the next thing is, what are you doing for yourself? How much time a day are you putting away for yourself just you as a human being? That doesn't mean go and spend time with your daughter, go and spend time with go on to, do anything, but like, are you dedicating any time to yourself? We have to have some time to ourselves every day to just kind of clear your head. And I do it. I call it mindset maintenance, right? Setting boundaries after you figure out the time you spend working, and then if you have any time, once you figure out how much time you need to maintain inner peace, you set that as a boundary, right? So the reason I always bring this up is because we tend to take, like if we get a phone call, I've been in safety for almost 25, a little over 25 years solid, right? My whole day can change with a phone call. Hey, Justin, just had a crane failure. Okay. Hey, babe, I'm going to be in Boston till tomorrow because I'm going to be at this incident, right? So like everything throws off. So then after that, I'm trying to play catch up for weeks, right? So that's everyone's life in the construction industry too. So like if you're a foreman, hey, two of our people called in sick today. They're trying to negotiate how to maintain the schedule they have, right? So the other thing on capacity, and I was talking about systematical issues that tie to it. I try to remind people that most of the jobs we're working on, it doesn't matter if it's utility, it doesn't matter if it's underground, building a skyscraper or bridge, whatever. That job was bid 5 and 6 and 7 years ago. And the company has no idea who's me still working for them then. Millennials leave every 5 years estimated, right? So when you look at that and you have foremen and you have field leaders, it's so important to teach them about capacity because it's really easy to navigate and try to take more on to maintain a schedule that was figured out and designed 6 and 7 years ago. So like, there's a lot of things going on there, right? So I think sometimes, especially nowadays, I talk a lot about training people about maintaining capacity because of the evils that can come from it. Because it just takes you down bad paths most of the time, right? So it does do good for some people. It proves that they can handle a little bit more, but at some point you're going to get maxed out. So the reason I bring it up is because if something does happen, you have no negotiating, and then what you're going to be doing is checking the box, getting as much done as you possibly can, and then you're not going to be an effective leader because you're not going to have time for that human connection with other human beings, right? So again, you can see there's multiple things that has to do with capacity, but it's important to set boundaries when it does come to capacity. That's one of the most vital things I try to pass on to everybody.
Yeah, those are great recommendations. And even with managing capacity, like what are some things that you've been able to do maybe it's exercise, so it's working on that piece. It might be nutrition, sleep, hydration. What are some of those things, strategies that you employed to help manage that capacity?
That's a great question. I have what's called a mindset plan. When I first started my recovery process in shadow work, it teaches a lot about self-reflection. And one of the things I noticed, when I'm at my best, I have a routine. And my routine's always to start my day with either reflection or I write in a journal. It's funny, like it's almost like against guy code to say I journal, right? But I journal. I tell everybody it's okay to be a man and journal. But I start my day out with, I mean, I have like a pack of them right here that I've been doing for, I do it every day. But I start my day out, and it really helped me rewire my brain. I think of 5 things I can have gratitude for, and I write it down. And what I found is over time, I've had more gratitude for the smaller things than I used to just think big, right? It makes you get creative. That's my goal, is to be great, have gratitude for the smallest things in life, because then you don't forget where you started from. So then I typically do either a power walk. I know you can't see it, but behind me over there, I have like hundreds of medals. I used to do half marathons, 10Ks, 5Ks, all that stuff all the time. Now that I'm 54, it hurts too much, right? So I do power walks every day. In my power walks, and then I do a lot of kettlebell workouts. I listen to music that just how I'm feeling that day. It just gives me a little inner peace. It clears my head. So then afterwards, it's like I'm almost dangerous because I have a clear head. I'm in a great mood. I'm motivated, and I can get a lot done that way. The other thing is I have weekly call check-ins with my Warrior Club. It's a personal peer group. Josh Rizzo and Chad Ningerfeld. I wouldn't be as good as I am today if it weren't for those 2 guys. We check in with each other, and it's just not all bad. Like I talked, we had a gathering yesterday, and it was funny. Like we just talked about how old we're getting. We talked about growing gardens, like just little stuff. Because Josh lives in Oregon, Chad lives in South Carolina, I live in South Massachusetts. So it's not all like bad stuff. But then there's sometimes like, hey, my daughter's driving me bonkers. Like, have you had this problem? And Chad can say, yeah, hey, my grandson did the same thing. And so you're not alone. So you start realizing that the challenges you're having, most other human beings have challenges with, and then it's just such a relieving feeling knowing that, like, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one that feels this way, right? So I have the Warrior Club meetings. We do it weekly, or if something's up, we need help. We do the call. But then also, you hit on it a minute ago about maintaining sleep. I used to be a 5-hour night guy for the longest time, and then when I went through my 6-month process, I'd be less than 2. And I would always keep telling myself, hey, you can do this. In the Marine Corps, you went 7.5 days without sleep, first week of boot camp. And then in the thick of battle, I think I did 17 days straight without, right? So like, I keep telling myself, oh, you can do this. Listen, I'm not 20 years old no more, man. Like I got to be smarter than that, right? So 7 hours of sleep every night. I try to maintain it. Even when I'm at trade shows, even when I'm out doing keynote sessions or whatever, I maintain that schedule. I try to get there earlier in the day so I can maintain 7 hours of sleep. I do have to budge off of it sometimes. Like if I'm on West Coast, I always take red eyes home. I try to sleep, but I'm just not a good sleeper on planes. But the sleep deprivation, and then the last one is for my routine is maintaining my boundaries, being accountable for them and committed to them. And my peer group, my Warrior Club, and even my wife, they check in on me. Hey man, how you doing? My wife knows if I'm getting 7 hours, but like if I'm not keeping up, like, hey, did you work out this week, or did you work out today? Like it just helps with me accountability, because I asked her to do it. And that accountability, with the boundaries, if someone goes down that path, I challenge them to make sure they had the conversation with their significant other. Like, hey, like me, it was Hey, babe, I was my worst I've ever been those 6 months. I never want to get back to it. First and foremost, I'm really sorry I got to that place. I never meant to, but like, can you make sure I'm sticking to these? Because this helps me maintain my best me, right? So that conversation went a long way with from the human side. And then with my warrior club, hey guys, this is my boundaries. I said, I mean, I have a whole doc on it. I filled it out and I have it on the wall. And I tell people this all the time, like, you write something down and you're looking at it all the time, you're more apt to do it. If you just talk about it once, you're not going to stick to it, right? So having that plan and then sticking to it, that routine's major. That hour a day is so vital. But the other thing is, I don't drink much alcohol at all. So that's one deal. Try to limit my sugar. And then the other side is I do a lot of stretching. The older I get, I feel like it just helps me clear my head, but also helps me if I'm sitting in a chair too long, all that good stuff.
Man, Justin, you touched on so many good things. I think the key takeaway, and this is reinforced by so much scientific literature, that there's no silver bullet when it comes to overall health and wellness. And we oftentimes think that health is one thing, but it's like the physical, mental, social, spiritual, um, aspects of wellness, and you have to be doing a little bit in each area. And like you said, sleep. I just had a conversation here on the WorkReady podcast with Dr. Eric Rogers, a sleep specialist, and he just reinforces, like, oftentimes we think that we're tough by not getting enough sleep, but there's no redeeming qualities related to sleep deprivation. I mean, it's the one thing that just continues to impact your body and your mind, and everything is tied back to the
That's,
ability for our body to recover. And I do find it interesting that when you're at your lowest point, you completely crashed on a beanbag, and
I mean,
like that was one of the things that helped pull you out of that moment.
yeah. I mean, it just told me that day, like, everything's not as bad as you thinking it is, Justin. Like, your daughter just told you how much she loved you. She wanted you to spend time with her. And then I fell asleep. Like, it was just a sign to me, like, okay, you don't have to give up. You know what I mean? I would love to find out who the person was that said you're a tough SOB if you don't get enough sleep, because I'd like to punch them in the eye, right? But I mean, I, I think back, if you really think about it, look at all the stuff that we do as leaders and as men and everything like that in the industry. For whatever reason, we feel like it makes us look like more macho or whatever. And it's just like, work smarter, not harder. Taking on 27 additional tasks, just does that really make me look like a more impactful leader? No, it makes me look like I'm an idiot because I don't know when to say no, right? So I just think, if you, as a human being, as an individual that's worked in this industry, if people would take more time to take a step back and really like pause for a little while and be like, okay, what was I thinking there? I'm such a moron, because like, really, like, if I continue this path, I'm just going to be putting band-aids everywhere. It's not really being an impactful leader. It just means that I could have my finger on a bunch of things and never get anything done, right? I mean, I just feel like that human side of things, like, and I wrote my paper on that. You know that. I mean, the understanding that human aspect, and the really taking a step back and saying to yourself, like, hey, I'm not supposed to be perfect. I'm imperfect. I'm working in an imperfect industry, imperfect job. No job's perfect. Like, let's accept that for what it is and just say, okay, how can I be my best? I talked about this with the group yesterday, is that sometimes where you're at might be your best place. You don't always have to keep trying to move up the ladder, because I've been really pushing hard for the longest time with some of these younger guys that's worked under me, and like, hey, this seat's all nice, the paycheck's okay, but everything involved in it, not so easy. I'm telling you guys, you don't see a lot of the things that I'm impacted by because I hide it from you. Please just remember that, like, learn as much as you can till you get there, because it's not easy, right? So I always try to explain that to people, is sometimes it's good to be where you're at. I mean, enjoy where you're at sometimes. Sometimes it's good. I'm not telling people that they don't have to, want to be successful, but sometimes just enjoying where they're at in life and learning as much as possible might be the best thing for a person at that time. You know what I mean?
Justin, a lot of people who have been 30 years in any industry, they probably in their mind are thinking, can't wait to wind down, can't wait to retire. And I feel like you're just ramping up and you have so much purpose. Like it's so cool to see how you've doubled down on wanting to actually increase your impact at this stage in your career. You're doing a lot with mission mindset. Can you tell us more about that? And you have what you developed, it's called the Code series, and we're going to walk through that. But tell us a little bit more first, just about mission mindset as a starting point.
So mission mindset, when I made the decision that I was semi-retired, and what we told people is that I wanted to take the next level. And when I started doing my research paper for my dissertation paper for my PhD in organizational leadership, I wanted to take a look at the industry, where we're at, what we're doing, and what I started to learn was that, and it's alarming almost. Like, so less than 5% of organizations in our industry offer or put people through leadership training. Now, leadership training could be used in a broad slogan of different things. But what I look at leadership training as is systematical, structured programs to help people lead others to higher level of human performance, like workforce readiness, right? So frontline leaders weren't getting the training. It was all C-suite people, right? So I kept looking at it, and I'm in the industry 30 years and boots on the ground, seeing the people making the impact. And that's foremen and journeymen and field leaders, superintendents, right? They're the people, they're the ones that handle all of the people stuff every day. And no one's teaching them basic fundamentals. And when I say basic fundamentals, meaning that how to have a professional conversation in a conflictual situation. Fear-based leadership thrives in the industry, and I understand it now more because it's what people have used to get where they are. So they're going to always stick to what they're doing because that's their comfort zone, right? So what I did at Mission Mindset was, when I started seeing these systematical issues, I just wanted to create programs for anybody that needed help with it, to help them be a better, higher level leader, how to have a conversation, how to understand the parts of leadership that can take you down a bad road. But the other side is just trying to give them a fair chance, because I never got that. I'm lucky that I was surrounded by really good people to learn from them, because, like, yes, I went to college, but they don't teach you how to be a leader in college. They teach you how to do academic work that has nothing to do with the industry you're in, right? Like 90% of the construction workforce is in the workforce as a B or C plan. It wasn't their first choice of career path, right? I don't know how many people work in the industry with financing degrees, with even engineering degrees. They're engineers and they're not even using it. Like, there's a lot of people in the industry, and then there's the people who boots on the ground came up like me. No one ever taught me how to be a leader. I just got lucky and learned some stuff in the military, and then from people I was surrounded with, right? So how can I provide a skill set to them, mindset skill set? And that's when I wanted to do my research. I surveyed 3,151 people, man, in the industry, and 76% said they didn't trust the person that's their leader, their supervisor. That's really bad. And I always ask why. And and most of them said it was because they don't feel that they're experienced enough. And so we're back to the other stats and all of this stuff. And I was like, man, our industry is heading for a bad place. So not that I can fix it all. I just wanted to say, hey, maybe I can do my part. So I started designing programs. You talked about it, the Code series. I got the performance code. I mean, I wrote everything. It's called a code. Everything that I do systematically connects to one another. I have Lifeline 14, the performance code, the safety code, the vault. Everything that I put together is human performance focus, mindset focus, culture focus, and leadership focus. It's a skill set, my experience and my research and my education. I put it all together. My hope is to at least impact one or two people, but my goal is 5%, right? If I figure if out of everybody I talk to, if I impact 5%, I'm meeting my goal, right? But I just want to give people an opportunity to go to work every day, have inner peace, teach them how to have conversations that are going to be tough sometimes, but a structured format. And then the mindset, the mindset code, the arena code, and the I got the arena code, the capacity code, and the mindset code, and the alley code. It's all combined, and it all just focuses on teaching them things that might impact them in the industry. I read what's called the joiners theory. It's the most common risk to suicide in the industry. When I first started out with my research, and I added two to them. I call it the Lifeline 14. There's 14 mindset risks associated with suicide in our industry. So these codes all align with preparing people to avoid those 14 mindset risks, if that makes sense. So my journey and everything I went through, I don't want other people to have to go down that, because if I pass this information on, maybe it might help them avoid going down that 6-month path.
Maybe you could expand on that a little bit more. So it's called what is it? The 14
Yeah, I call it the Lifeline 14.
Lifeline 14.
It's the mindset risk of the construction industry. The Joiner series was written in 2006. I wish I would have known about it back then. However, it's the most common risk of suicide, and when they overlap each other, the risk gets higher. When I was at my worst, September the 9th, 2020, I had 10 of them. So I think I was lucky to last that long, but I think most people at 3, it's not good. So that's when I read this, I was kind of mad at first. I was like, man, I wish I would have known about this. And part of this code series is in the Lifeline 14 is getting out that information up front, letting people know this is real, this exists. Like, look at me, what I went through. And there's 5,000 people that lose their life, death by suicide every year. That means there's a lot more people suffering, right? I think there was a number that 1.5 million people annually think of taking their life to suicide. Heck, there's almost 3 million calls to 988 that don't get answered. So, I mean, all of this stuff's coming out, and I'm like, we just really need to get these mindset risks out in front of people. So that's what the code series is about. It's all tied together, how to avoid those mindset risks. But I start out with arena code. It talks about the systematical issues of the industry. I kind of was talking or alluding to a little bit earlier. Like, I call it the unseen risk. I mean, I got asked to step up in leadership roles that I wasn't qualified for. And did I say no? No. You know what I mean? Who says, I don't know, let me think about this a little while, boss? Like, if you're going to take a promotion or not, I mean, you're going to take the promotion. It's all about the money, right? So I just think it's important to help people understand that, there's issues in the arena that you're not probably seeing or understanding, to help you set that up. And then the mindset code. I wrote the mindset code based on shadow work. When I went through my first year of shadow work, I learned really how bad of a leader I really was. And I mean that like in a good way. I mean, I have such high standards. I mean, if you think about it, the construction industry, the minimum standards, excellence. That's a lot. That's hard, right? So like, mindset code really is a way to, how are you wired as a leader? Are you a growth-minded person, an open-minded person, closed-minded person? So in the mindset code, the most commonly used type of intelligence It's called contextual intelligence in the construction industry. I learned about it when I attended Harvard Business School. It's five different types of intelligence combined, but it's the most commonly used based on the constant need for adaptation due to constant change, something like we talked about earlier, right? Every day the plan changes. Nothing is the same. It's easy to get complacent on jobs like that are long term, but there's so much change every day. It's added pressure. It could isolate you real fast to thinking you're not impactful because everything's changing. You gotta come up quick on your feet with a plan, especially as a leader, right? So I try to teach people about contextual intelligence and then how that impacts your emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is how you react to contextual intelligence, right? So if you think about how many people, field level leaders, do you think's ever been taught about that? They're never taught about how are you wired, right? Like we all take the test that tells you your A and D or whatever it might be. But mine's changed every single time I've taken it because I've grown as a leader, right? So I try to teach people mindset code so they can figure out how they're wired, but then also how to communicate. So I have this 5 minutes. It's called it's a 5-minute challenge. I ask everybody to write in 5 minutes their top 5 responsibilities that they have right now as a worker, as a leader, could be a foreman, whatever it might be. And I ask them to write down their top 5 responsibilities. And then I ask them in 2 other sections, in the destructive setting, which is negative, and then the constructive is positive. Write down how that responsibility impacts you. And be honest with yourself, because if you're not going to be honest with yourself, you're not going to get anything out of this. So I'd say be honest. Like my number one responsibility as a safety professional was incident management, right? So how does that impact me as a human being? Well, I can tell you pressure, skill gap can come out if I miss something. If someone gets hurt, it's going to be a long couple of weeks. Like I could get fired, all of that stuff emotionally, and then how's the positive, right? So I can tell you as a safety professional, your top 5 responsibilities, there's not a lot of positive or constructive feelings, right? It's mostly destructive. So then after we look at that, we take that destructive and how can we get this into constructive? What is holding it up? Why is it in this process of destructive? And most of the time, the people will find out they have a problem communicating. Like we hear the term in the industry called shopping for answers, right? People do it a lot because they will avoid going to somebody they know is going to be abrupt with them, or you're not going to get the outcome you want. All of this leads to the capacity thing, right? So people got to check things off to get it done. We're competitive people, like, hey, boss, I got all this done. But if you can't get it into the positive because you got to shop for answers, why? And a lot of it has to do with people do not have a conversation strategically when they have a conflict, right? So that leads into teaching them how to use purpose, people, expectation as a foundational approach to having conversation. First and foremost, a lot of people don't want to admit this, but if you practice having a conversation with someone before you go have it, you're more equipped. So when I do keynote sessions, I will practice doing them 9 times minimum before I go do it. I don't care if I've done it 100 times. I just want to practice because I'm more clear, more sharp. I got my brain clear, right? So if you practice, like, what's the purpose of this conversation? And you go up front with it, like, hey, bro, I just want to be upfront with you. I'm looking for advice on rigging. You do a great job at this rigging thing and keeping everything all aligned and neat and orderly. How do you accomplish that? Because like I'm struggling with that, and it keeps coming up on our safety reports with these other guys. So can you tell me a little bit about how you've done that? Because that goes to the people side. You're seeking to understand them more, right? And most people, when you go at it that way, they're going to open up and have a normal conversation with you. There's going to be the 5 and 7%, like, I don't got time for this. Get away from me. Okay, you did your best, right? But then the rest of the 93% are going to want to have conversation because they have to, right? So once you let them tell you and you listen, then you can set the expectation. Like, okay, great, man. So I just want to make sure I got this right. You say you do it this way, and this way. So if I go communicate with this other group, we should all be aligned. Or, hey, can you repeat what I said to you? I want to make sure I didn't miss something. I don't know how you are, Kevin, but growing up, my grandfather always be like, young man, wait, time out. What did I just say to you? Because he want to make sure I'm listening. Most people pull their phone out when someone's talking, so they're not listening to you. So you want, hey, put the phone down for a second. What did I just say to you? I just want to make sure we're all clear. I mean, so getting into that format of practicing conflictual conversations and have just a structured approach, I just think gives people a little bit better opportunity to avoid conflict, which goes back to the 14 mindset risk, right? So less conflict, the less pressure, chronic pain, on down the list, right? So I think it's important to really think about that. Because it really all comes down to financial instability. Like if you're doing good, you're handling business at work and you're productive, you're not going to be worrying about your paycheck, right? So like it all comes down to those 14 mindset risks. And we've talked about the capacity code already. It's so powerful because the more stuff you take on, the less you can really accomplish. It's less time. You have 24 hours a day. And if you're at the job early and late, some bosses look at that as someone that's had problems with time management, right? What they don't think about is they probably taught that person to come in early and leave late, right? Because first in, first out, or first in, last out kind of mindset thrives in the construction industry. When I was at Kiewit, it was like the game. Hey, I was here at 4:30 and I left at 9:00 p.m. Like for whatever reason, it made us all look like we were doing more, which we weren't, right? We were just messing around more because we wanted to be the last one out the door. So in your out, then I move it. It all ends with the ally code. The ally code is something I created with that QRF team. When I started figuring out that most people won't call an EAP because they feel like they're not getting anything out of it, or it's going to cost them money, because unfortunately there are some really bad EAPs out there that, hey, if I call for a counselor, I get 2 free visits, but then after that I got to pay for it out of pocket, right? So most of the trade professionals don't want to use an EAP because they're afraid someone's going to find out about it, or it's going to make them look weak or whatever, because we've been brainwashed and thinking, weakness is not allowed, that kind of thing. But then 988 not working. I've talked to you about that. The average answer rate most states is 80%. They call an answer, calling somebody back 1.5 hours to 3 days later. I mean, that wouldn't have worked for me. You know what I mean? Like, why would it work for somebody else? And again, back to our industry, the minimum expectation is excellence. Most people's safety, they like to put the thing, we want 0 incidents, right? So why is that acceptable for that, but not for the health side, people's mindset, right? So when I started figuring out 988's not working, people aren't using EAPs. We got to get ahead of that place where they need to call a crisis, right? And not everything's easy, right? So when I started learning more about 988, or not 988, but the EAPs, I learned that I partnered with a group, their SMOITS EAP group. They're called Union EAP. The owner told me that 90% of their calls are mental health related or substance use related. And of the mental health side of it, he said over 50% of those calls related to family crises, meaning someone who needed spousal, is having a spousal issue and wanted to get counseling. One that really caught me off guard was people who have autistic children. He has a part that helps. I have 2 brothers, they have autistic children. That is hard, right? So resources for that. The other is financial instability. Elderly care is another one. And then also child care, like child that needs services. That was over 50% of their calls. So I was like, holy cow, man, like why can't we get people to use these, right? So I was like, how can I get people to start getting help before we get to the crisis? So first thing I wanted to do is put the ally code together. I wanted to get people to learn about the 14 mindset risks. And then the ally code is a way of getting people to talk to other human beings. So I give coins away. See, I showed them yesterday, right? They're called commitment coins. We give coins to every single person, 3 of them, 1 for themselves and 2 for an ally. I want them to recruit 2 people that they could trust to have private, personal conversations with, and have those type of conversations at least once a week. And then the other side of it is that once you start building a relationship with somebody, like my Warrior Club, we talk about everything. And what I found is I'm not the only one that thinks it's thinks when things happen in life that sometimes I'm like, am I crazy? Am I the only one who feels this way? So when I'm talking to these other guys, I'm like, that I feel the same way. That happens to me. Like, so you start to figure out, like, you're not alone, man. Like, you're not crazy. I'm not the only one that thinks this way, right? So we started the Ally Club to promote that, because at the age of 30, I said that earlier, people stop talking to other human beings. That human connection really helps resolve the conflict inside. You got to work on people internally too, right? So it's promoting people to have someone that they can call and that they can talk to weekly. The other side is, if those people during the call notice, hey man, you're not being normal, let's meet up for coffee in the morning, or let's meet after the job, after work today, and let's have dinner, let's talk. And then once you start talking to that person can say, hey, like with my buddies, I'm here for you, man. I love you. We're going to get through this together. I'm going to fly out and I'm going to see you. Or, hey, we're going to be at the same event. Let's go a couple hours earlier so we can spend a couple hours together. My guys, we'll sometimes do sunrise hikes in the mountains just to go out and clear our head. It's like, I know I'm there with someone. I'm not alone. It's just that human connection, right? But the other side is, if either one of those guys know I'm struggling, they'll be the first one to say, hey, let's call the EAP together, or let's go talk to this other person that we're close to. Cause like Chad's a priest as well, like a pastor. Like I'm a big man in faith. So like we'll pray together on stuff, you know what I mean? So I think that human connection thing is so big. So that's why we created the Ally Code. A lot of the companies I've partnered with already are instilling this into their culture. It's not something they're asking you to do. It's a core value of their culture. Like, hey, this is an expectation. And in the Ally Code, there's a couple things that work with it. First and foremost is the human side of it, like building relationships with humans that you're talking to, so you know you're not alone, and you don't have to walk the walk alone. But the other side, that's how you maintain yourself as a top performer. These companies want to have top performers working for them. They recognize, like, hey, if we're giving our people resources to maintain their mindset, to be clear, to handle life stuff when it happens, because life is imperfect. They know they don't plan their people are robots. So if you're having that type of honor system, you're making it honorable to maintain yourself as a top performer. You're making it about your legacy. One of the guys that kicked this off in his organization, he's like, this is a minimum expectation, is you maintain yourself as a top performer mindset wise. The only way you're going to do that is keeping a clear head, because if you're clear in your mind, you're not missing the other risks that can actually physically hurt you. This is about building your legacy. A legacy is about leaving behind how you made people feel, not what you made them, right? So if you're an elite performer, elite leader, because you walk this walk and you talk about being in EAP systems, using it. He brought up in his, like, hey, I'm horrible with money. I will blow it as soon as I get it. I talked to the financial advisor at their EAP. I've already saved $10,000, right? So like modeling that change, he talks about that, and that's a minimum expectation of his leaders in his organization. Is your checkpoints are, hey, have you talked to your ally this week? Hey, have you met with your ally team? Are you having peer group meetings? Like, he talks about it. It's walking the walk, right? So, it's been awesome to see that grow legs, because he says his company is more connected now than they've ever been. And he goes, they usually lose 5 to 8 people a year. And he goes, we've lost one person this year, and it's because they moved to freaking Australia. And he goes, you can't fix that. You know what I mean? Like, so I just think it's, I talk about it a lot. If you want to be a top magnet for top performers, top talent in the industry, you got to connect with people at their heart. And if you're doing that through a program like this, it's part of their core value. You gotta connect with people, help them maintain their mindset, maintain what's in their heart inside. Josh and I call it heart home biz. You take care of your heart first, take care of home first, all the biz stuff works out, right? So we talk about this a lot, but that's that program. It's been awesome, man, to see, because I put it in a structured format so that people can learn from it. They can take it home and read it and be like, this makes sense. This identifies with me, because I'm just a human being working, man. Like, I just want people to go to work and not have to feel like they got to be miserable through life, man. Just like, try to enjoy yourself a little bit, you know?
Justin, I love that so much. Just on a personal note for me, in COVID, there were a few dads in my neighborhood. Our kids went to school together. We're like, man, we just need a group where we can get together on a consistent basis. And
Yeah.
so it's 10 of us, and every Tuesday we meet from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Read the scriptures for 30 minutes, just check in with each other, and yeah, we're just there for each other. And if there was anything that I ever needed, I could call each one of those people and reach out to them. And what was fascinating is, after we kicked off that group, other men started to hear about it. And so they're like, hey, can we start up another one? And so the next morning, Wednesday morning, I'm like, hey, I'll just spend like 3 months, help you guys get this kicked off. So it was another 10 guys, and then another 10 guys wanted to start. So another guy from the Tuesday group started on Thursday. And I'm 2 years into now doing it every Tuesday and Wednesday. And I've got
Wow.
22 guys, and one of the other guys leads another group. So it's like 30 dads that meet on a consistent basis. And it's just been such a joy. And I just realized how important it is to walk with other men and to have that resource outside of our families. And it makes us all stronger leaders in our community, in our businesses, and in our families. And so, yeah, I just want to reiterate, I think you're so on the right path with that. And thank you for helping to facilitate a structure so that people can be in community and have that those allies. I want to
I get,
double.
I get challenged. I get challenged by people sometimes, like, this thing really works. You put it in pen and paper, right? So, like, I love what you just said about your group, so Kevin. Like, so that group that Josh has been running, it's called Safety Social. He started that on April 2nd of 2020. Still running hard. We've been doing it every week ever since. And then I started S for S, which is Safety for Safety. It's safety professionals. We meet the first or the third Friday of every month. We met last Friday. So yeah, the second Friday of every month. And then I also created a group called Rough Edges. We just met yesterday. It's usually the first Thursday of every month at 1 o'clock. And I invite leaders to share lessons learned. Doesn't have to be like big. It's like, hey, this is a lesson I learned, because vulnerable leadership helps others learn, right? So that 5% of the industry that does teach people, but it's mostly C-suite people, I wanted other individuals to have opportunities to learn from other leaders, right? So we had 14 people on that call yesterday, and it's free. It's something that people can just, randomly join. And I have usually a guest speaker that's, like, got some pretty good experience from them. And then I also even have some younger guys. Like, it's so fun because, like, we all learn from each other. It's so great. But the greatest point to it that I love is, and kind of relates to what you just said, is every one of these guys know that we all like to feel comfortable a little bit in what we do, like when we're going to places and doing things as leaders. But every one of these guys know that all they got to do is like make a phone call, and they got 20 buds that they can all get together and talk about something. Or like me, like if I'm gone one week, I know that I have a local guy that can come. Like if something happens at my house, like, hey, my heater stopped working. Hey, Bill, can you go by my house? Like, so it's just nice to know, like, you kind of have backup. It's always good to know you have backup.
Absolutely. I want to double back on one of the things that you mentioned. You gave a statistic with the survey that you took of over 3,000 employees who said that, I think you said 76% of them didn't trust their leader because they didn't feel like they had enough experience. I was recently talking to an operational leader, and he said that one of his biggest struggles is, he was pretty good at what he did from a technical standpoint, and the path to grow within his organization was to move into leadership. But he was like, I had zero leadership training. And so he's like, good technically, communication, leadership, that was an area that I just wasn't prepared for. And he reflected on the fact that, he felt really self-conscious about that, and realized that he lacked in certain areas. And then he started to move into like self-protection mode, and just started treating people not how he would have normally treated people, because he was acting out of fear and he was leading out of fear. And he realized that he just had a leadership gap and a communication gap, and that's all it was. And once he actually went down the path of pursuing some education and training, and got a coach to help him with that, it totally transformed him as a leader, because he was no longer leading out of fear. And I would imagine that that's maybe a little bit behind that stat that you just referenced. And so if somebody, who may be listening to this kind of resonates with that story and feels like, man, that's what I need. I need more leadership training. I need resources. How could the mission mindset framework in the code series really help them grow their leadership so that they could feel more confident from a communication and leading with confidence?
One of the biggest, in my opinion, so the 14 mindset risks, I'm real focused on control what you control, right? And of the 14 mindset risks, there's a few that I focused on with mindset, mission mindset, and one of the number ones were skills gaps. Skill gaps, you just described it. That is what happened to that individual is so common, because for one, they're not going to turn down a promotion. Two, are they going to be honest with their with the supervisor, saying, "I'll take this promotion, but I probably shouldn't because I don't have these skill gaps, because I don't have that experience level." So no, so this is very common. And one of the main reasons I actually created Mission Mindset, so the code series, to me, it's a fundamental approach to giving people an opportunity to just hear and learn and look at things in a subjective manner, right? So I tell everybody in leadership, the first and foremost process before you become a leader is to understand that there's only 1 in 49 people are natural leaders. So that means 48 individuals are not natural leaders, right? So some have it, some don't, right? So no one's expectation should be that you're going to be perfect, first and foremost. So I tell everybody, someone just doesn't hand you a piece of paper and you're a leader. You're kind of be constantly learning, right? So the code series, it's base foundational stuff to know to help you understand that my way is not perfect. My friend Josh's way isn't perfect. Everybody is their own individual human being. We all have different DNA. We all have different things that we were taught as kids. We all were brought up differently, right? So the code series just gives a foundational approach to it. But if someone came to me and said, "Hey, I have no leadership skills. I'm in this role. I need some help," the first and foremost, number one thing I'd ask them to do is figure out, how do they operate as a human being? How do they see things? Because as a leader, something that I stick to my guns with big and heavy right now is I lead in a manner of trying to do what I think is the right thing for people, not just me, but people, the people side of it, right? So it's really easy to get committed to a name on a check, or I work for Milwaukee Tool or Canistro and I'm doing what's best for the company. Well, listen, man, 95% of the time, people ask their people to do what they think is right for them. So you got to figure out how you're wired, but then you also got to figure out where your weaknesses are, right? So most people don't do good speaking in front of other human beings at first. They got to practice that, right? So start small before you go big. Some people don't get that opportunity, so multiple times practicing. But I got to watch a guy present on a Harvard study he did on just to share with you from the life expectancy of a human being is 90 years old in the United States of America. So he took it from the age of 18 to 90, how people will spend their time in months. There's 1,080 months in your life. And what he found is each like I think it was like 360 months will be fit of your life sleeping, and then 260 working, and then 60 driving, on down the line, where you got to there was 395 months left of open space. And he said, unfortunately, the average 90 or 18-year-old will spend 93% of that time behind the screen. So what I'm getting at is, like, I always teach these younger people coming up, how much screen time are you using? And it's really easy, especially on an iPhone, to look. The average person's 5 to 8 hours a day, depending on, do they ride a train to work, all that good stuff, right? So could you spend that time looking at capacity, adding value to your leadership skills, right? So what I say is, I watch a lot of Simon Sinek. He has a lot of really good points. I listen to podcasts a lot, educational. I try not to listen to all the emotional ones or the gloom and gloom or all that stuff, because it's not adding value to my leadership skills. But again, back to everyone is different. Find your identity. Find what works and how you learn. One of the reasons I wrote the code series the way I did, there is not one shoe fits all in this space, whether it's mental mindset, performance, leadership. You have to create content that serves a huge audience. But I tell people all the time, find what works for you, and then use that to educate yourself, whether it's speaking skills, writing skills, learning how to map stuff out capacity-wise, understanding the arena more. But number one, you got to understand how you're wired. That contextual intelligence, understand that. How does that communicate with your emotional intelligence? One of my biggest weaknesses that I learned when I first got married was I thought I was great at masking my emotions on how something was impacting me. I really was horrible at it. I didn't know that. So if you're in a leadership role and something happens and you're showing emotionally that this is the end of the world kind of mindset, that's how your people are going to respond, right? So you got to learn how to control your emotions, control your mindset. So that takes practice. The only way you're going to be able to do that is understand the contextual intelligence process you have, and then have a process mentally that you can follow. Again, routine, right? So that's what I would try to explain to people, is that your time that you're wasting scrolling, utilize that to add value, to learn. And it could be from whoever you identify, whether it's Jocko Willink, Mike Sorelli, any of those guys. I identify with those guys specifically because of my Marine Corps background. My father was in the Marines as well. So, like, that's what works for me. Simon works for a lot of other people. Like, I tell people sometimes, take a course at Harvard Business School online. They have 9 and 8 week courses that you can learn. I took organizational leadership. I've taken strategy, statistical management, all of it to it. I learned a lot from all of them, but I did it on my time. Like, I would start 5 a.m. in the morning and go to 7 a.m. It was 2 hours at a time a day. They only require 6 hours a week. and it was a self-learned. So like, there's all types that identified well with me. Six Sigma black belt works for some people. I mean, just try to figure out what works for you, and then utilize that as a way to approach it. Because again, it's not a one shoe fits all kind of deal. Same with suicide prevention. I try to explain that to everybody. Is like, it's not one thing that's going to work. You got to have multiple things. So that's what advice I'd give.
Thank you so much, Justin. This has been just a fantastic conversation. I so appreciate your honesty and transparency about um, your journey, and I think that it's really empowering to a lot of other people. Are there any other final thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners, and then how can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm really easily found on LinkedIn. You can just look up Justin Azbill. I'm the only one. My last name's A, Z as in zebra, B as in boy, I as in India, and then two L's as in Lima. Or you can go to www.mission/mindsetus.org. And that's my website, and my contact information is there. But if I could leave it with any some last stuff with anybody, like a last message, number one is just remember we're all human beings. We're imperfect. We work and live in a world of construction where the minimum expectation is excellence. I try to remind people that a lot. That's a hard line to follow. So if you want to make out like nothing impacts you as a human being, or you're made of stone and you don't have feelings, I want to leave you a little message for you to tell you, we all know the truth. So I want to challenge everybody that's listening, take some time, make a commitment to yourself. That's what I call mindset maintenance. Create a daily routine. You all earn at least 1 hour a day of mental currency, mindset currency. Cherish that 1 hour and spend it maintaining yourself. And then the last thing I want to challenge everybody to is there's two things. We all have crisis plans when things go wrong for stuff at work. Create a crisis plan for yourself when something goes wrong, because it's not a matter of if, it's when something's going to happen in life. It's inevitable. Car wreck, lose your job, your mom gets sick, something's going to happen. Have a crisis contingency plan to maintaining yourself mentally. And then the last thing I always tell everybody, if we all worked really hard in this life to create a legacy that we leave behind, a legacy that we would allow our own child to work in, we're winning. So I challenge everybody that, like, we had to change the industry into an industry where I would allow my daughter to work in. And that's what I'm doing today with Mission Mindset.
Justin, this has been so great. Thank you so much. That was definitely a mic drop. So thank you so much for being on the WorkReady podcast. We look forward to continuing the conversation. Keep up the good work. And thank you for joining us today, everyone. Until next time, this is the WorkReady podcast. Thanks so much.